The morning sun rose over Seoul like it had done for thousands of years. People walked to work. Children ran to school. Old men sat in parks and watched the birds. It was a normal spring day, full of life and hope and small dreams. Park Yuna stood in her military office, looking at papers on her desk. She was a colonel then, young for her rank, with sharp eyes and a mind that never stopped working. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother. "Come for dinner tonight. Your father is making your favorite soup." Yuna smiled and typed back, "I will be there at 7. She never made it to dinner. At exactly 9:47 inches the morning, the sky changed. People looked up and saw lights falling from above. Not stars, not planes. Something else. Something wrong. The first explosion hit the center of Seoul. The sound was like the world breaking in half. Buildings that had stood for 100 years turned to dust in seconds. The ground shook so hard that Yuna fell from her chair. Alarms screamed. Soldiers ran. Nobody knew what was happening. Then the second explosion came, and the third, and the fourth. Yuna ran to the window and saw her city burning. Towers of fire reached up to the sky. Black smoke covered everything. She could hear people screaming, even from this distance. Her hands shook as she grabbed her phone and called her mother. No answer. She called her father. No answer. She called her younger brother. Nothing. Only silence. In those few minutes, Yuna's world ended. Her family lived in the center of the city, the same center that was now a sea of flames. Reports came flooding in from around the world. New York was gone. London was burning. Mumbai had fallen silent. Cairo was nothing but ruins. In less than 1 hour, the great cities of Earth had been destroyed. Billions of people were dead or dying, and then came the message. Every screen on the planet showed the same image, a creature that was not human. It had gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face. Its voice was cold, like metal scraping against stone. "People of this world," it said, "I am Admiral Keithan of the Cathari Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. Your species is now our property. You will work. You will serve. You will obey. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your kind. This is not a negotiation. This is your new reality. Accept it." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody on Earth moved. The shock was too great. The loss was too deep. How could this happen? How could beings from the stars come and destroy everything in a single morning? Governments tried to respond. They launched missiles at the ships in orbit. The missiles were destroyed before they even left the atmosphere. Fighter jets flew up to challenge the enemy. They were swatted down like insects. Nothing humanity had could touch the Cathari. Within 3 days, most world leaders had surrendered. They saw no choice. Fight and die, or submit and live. Many chose to live on their knees, but not everyone. Yuna spent those 3 days in the ruins of Seoul. She dug through broken concrete with her bare hands. She searched through ash and fire. She found what was left of her family home on the second day. There was nothing left. No bodies, no memories, just gray dust and melted stone. She sat in the ashes for a long time. She did not cry. Something inside her had changed. The soft parts of her heart had turned to iron. The woman who had smiled at her mother's message was gone. In her place was something harder, something colder, something dangerous. On the 5th day, she walked into a secret military bunker where the remaining generals had gathered. They were arguing about surrender terms, how to make the transition smooth, how to keep the Cathari happy. Yuna listened for 1 hour. Then she stood up. "You are all cowards," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a blade. "Billions are dead. Our cities are gone. Our families are ash. And you want to negotiate? You want to serve?" An old general shook his head. "What choice do we have? They have weapons we cannot match, ships we cannot touch. We fight. We die. All of us." Yuna looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. "Then we die. But we die standing. We die fighting. We die as humans, not as slaves." "That is foolish," another general said. "Emotion over logic. We must survive first. Then, maybe in 100 years, we can, in 100 years, we will have forgotten how to stand, Yuna interrupted. In 100 years, our grandchildren will not know they were ever free. No. We start now. Today. This moment. She walked to the communication console. Her fingers moved across the controls. She was broadcasting to every resistance cell, every hidden military unit, every person who still had the will to fight. People of Earth, she said into the microphone. You have heard the enemy's message. Now hear mine. They want us to kneel. They want us to forget. They want us to become nothing. She paused, and her voice grew stronger. I say no. I say we remember. We remember every city they burned, every family they destroyed, every child who will never grow up. We remember, and we wait. Because they have made a mistake. They think we are weak because we are hurt. They think we are broken because we are bleeding, but they do not understand us. Her eyes burned with cold fire. We are not broken. We are angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the universe. So I make this promise to you, and to them. We will not forget. We will not forgive. And one day, when they think we are defeated, when they think we are nothing, we will rise, and we will make them pay for every single drop of blood they have spilled. She ended the transmission. The old generals stared at her. Some with fear, some with doubt, but a few, just a few, looked at her with something else. Hope. In orbit above Earth, the Cathari commanders listened to the humans' message. They laughed. What could these primitive creatures do? They had no ships, no weapons, no technology. They were insects making noise before being crushed. Admiral Keithan sent a report to the Emperor. Planet secured. Native population broken. No significant threat detected. Moving garrison to standard occupation protocol. He did not know that deep underground, in bunkers and caves and hidden places, humans were already working, planning, building. He did not know that he had just started a war that would burn across the galaxy. He did not know that the woman with iron eyes would be the one to end his empire. But he would learn. They all would. 10 years passed like a slow river of pain and patience. On the surface, Earth looked defeated. The Cathari garrison ships floated in orbit like metal moons. Their soldiers walked through human cities, taking what they wanted, hurting who they wished. People worked in factories that built goods for the Empire. They kept their heads down. They did not meet the eyes of their masters, but this was only what the Cathari saw. They did not see what happened in the shadows. Park Yuna was no longer a colonel. The scattered resistance groups had united under her command. They called her general now, though she never asked for the title. She simply worked, planned, and waited. Her headquarters moved every few weeks, always staying one step ahead of Cathari patrols. Sometimes it was a cave deep in the mountains. Sometimes it was a bunker beneath a ruined city. Sometimes it was a submarine resting on the ocean floor. She never slept more than 4 hours. She ate simple food without tasting it. The only thing that kept her alive was the cold fire in her heart. The promise she had made on the day the sky burned. Her oldest friend was Kang Taeho. They had grown up together in the same neighborhood in Seoul. As children, they had played games and dreamed of the future. Now they were soldiers in a war that seemed impossible to win. Taeho had become an admiral, commanding the secret fleet that humanity was building. He was tall and calm, with a face that rarely showed emotion, but Yuna knew him well enough to see the anger that lived behind his quiet eyes. We found another crash site, Taeho told her one night, spreading maps across a table lit by candles. A Cathari patrol ship. It went down in the Pacific. Our divers are already on the way. Yuna nodded. Good. Send everything to Minho. Dr. Choi Minho was perhaps the most important person in the resistance. He was a scientist, short and thin, with glasses that were always dirty and hair that was always messy. Before the invasion, he had worked on space technology for the Korean government. Now he led teams of engineers and researchers in hidden laboratories. His job was simple to explain but almost impossible to do. Take Cathari technology and make it better. The Cathari had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had conquered over 300 worlds. But Minho discovered something interesting as he studied their machines. They had not invented most of their technology. They had stolen it from the species they conquered. They were thieves, not creators. They stopped thinking, Minho explained to Yuna during one of her visits to his underground lab. They found technology that worked, and they never tried to improve it. Their ships are the same design they used 1,000 years ago. Their weapons have not changed in 500 years. He pushed his glasses up his nose and smiled. It was the smile of a man who had found a crack in an enemy's armor. But humans are different. We cannot help but improve things. It is in our nature. Give us a tool, and we will make it sharper. Give us a weapon, and we will make it deadlier. Give us their technology, and we will turn it into something they have never imagined. And that was exactly what happened. From crashed ships and captured equipment, Minho's teams built new weapons. Missiles that could think and change course to chase their targets. Shields that learned from every attack and adapted to block the next one. Engines that were faster and more efficient than anything the Cathari had. In hidden factories beneath mountains, workers assembled warships. They were not beautiful ships. They were rough and ugly, made from whatever materials could be found. But they were strong. They were fast. And they were armed with weapons that would make the Empire tremble. The fleet grew in secret. In the darkness of the asteroid belt, on the far side of the moon. In deep ocean bases that no Cathari sensor could detect, 3,000 ships, built over 10 years of blood and sweat and endless determination. Captain Lee Hana became the face of human defiance during those years. She was a pilot, small and fierce, with a laugh that could light up a room and eyes that could freeze an enemy's blood. She flew supply missions through Cathari patrols, bringing food, medicine, and weapons to resistance cells around the world. The Cathari could not catch her. Their pilots flew by rules and patterns. Hana flew by instinct and madness. She did things with her ship that should have been impossible. She dove through asteroid fields. She skimmed so close to Cathari cruisers that she could see the alien faces through the windows. She became a legend. When a young pilot asked her how she survived so many missions, she laughed. The Cathari fly like machines, she said. They follow orders. They calculate odds. They do what they are programmed to do. But I fly like a human. I have something to live for. I have something to die for. And that makes all the difference. During those 10 years, Yuna traveled across the planet. She visited every resistance cell. She spoke to every commander. She looked into the eyes of soldiers who had lost everything and gave them something to hold on to. Hope, I know you are tired, she would tell them. I know you have buried friends. Family. Children. I know sometimes you wonder if there is any point to this fight. Her voice would grow soft but strong. But I ask you to hold on. Just a little longer. We are building something. Something that will shake the stars. Something that will make the Cathari realize they made the greatest mistake in the history of their empire when they attacked our world. And the people believed her. Because she was one of them. Because she had lost as much as any of them. Because when she spoke of vengeance, they could see it burning in her eyes like a star that would never go out. The Cathari noticed nothing. Their garrison commander sent the same report every month. Planet pacified. Population declining. No significant resistance activity detected. He spent his days drinking wine stolen from French vineyards and collecting art from human museums. He thought this assignment was boring. He wished for a transfer to a more exciting front. He did not know that beneath his feet, thousands of men and women worked in secret factories. He did not know that in the darkness of space, a fleet was waiting. He did not know that every day, humanity grew stronger while his masters grew weaker. In the 10th year, Yuna gathered her commanders for a final meeting. They stood around a holographic display showing the Cathari garrison positions. It is time, she said simply. Tejo nodded. Hana grinned. Minho adjusted his glasses. The fleet is ready, Tejo reported. 3,000 ships. 200,000 soldiers trained and equipped. We can strike within 48 hours. Yuna looked at the faces around her. These were people who had given everything for this moment, who had sacrificed their youth, their peace, their chance at normal lives. 10 years ago they burned our world, she said. 10 years ago they told us to kneel. 10 years ago they called us property. Her voice hardened. Tomorrow, they learn what property can do when it decides it is free. Tomorrow, we take back our sky. Tomorrow, the war truly begins. The commanders saluted and left to prepare. Yuna stood alone, looking at the display. Somewhere up there, beyond the clouds, the Kethari garrison floated in ignorant peace. They would wake tomorrow to fire and fury. She allowed herself a small smile. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who had waited very, very patiently for her prey. You thought you killed us, she whispered to the empty room. But you only made us stronger. And now, we are coming for you. The final night of humanity's chains had begun. The Kethari garrison commander was eating breakfast when the universe changed. His name was Admiral Vorek, and he had spent 12 years watching over this boring planet. 12 years of easy duty, 12 years of collecting art and drinking wine and sending reports that said nothing happened, because nothing ever did. The humans had been broken long ago. They worked. They obeyed. They died quietly. That was the way of conquered species. His breakfast was interrupted by an alarm that had never sounded before in his entire time on Earth. What is that noise? He demanded, spilling his tea. His aide ran into the room. Face pale with something Vorek did not recognize at first. Then he understood. It was fear. Admiral, the aide stammered. Ships, human ships, thousands of them. Vorek laughed. Impossible. The humans have no ships. Run a diagnostic on the sensors. They must be broken. Sir, I have confirmed it 3 times. They are emerging from multiple locations. The asteroid belt. The lunar shadow. Rising from the oceans, over 3,000 warships, and they are heading directly for our position. The laugh died in Vorek's throat. He ran to the command center of his ship. Officers were shouting at each other. Screens flashed with red warnings. And there, filling the display, was a sight that should not exist, a human fleet. Massive, organized, armed with weapons that his computers could not identify. Moving toward his garrison like a wave of steel and fire. How is this possible? Vorek whispered. How did they build this without us knowing? Nobody had an answer. Then all communication channels lit up with an incoming transmission. Every screen on every Kethari ship showed the same image, a human woman in a military uniform. Her hair was gray at the edges now, streaked with the color of the years she had spent preparing for this moment. Her face was calm, almost peaceful, but her eyes burned with something that made Vorek's blood turn cold. She spoke. My name is General Park Yuna of the United Earth Defense Force. I speak to the Kethari garrison, and to your empire, and to your emperor. Her voice was steady, like a blade being drawn from its sheath. 10 years ago you came to our world. You did not announce yourselves. You did not negotiate. You did not even warn us. You simply attacked. You burned our cities while our children slept. You killed billions while our families ate breakfast. You took everything we had and called it your right. She paused. The silence was heavy. You told us we were primitive. You told us we were property. You told us to accept our new reality. And for 10 years, we let you believe that we had accepted it. A smile crossed her face. It was not a kind smile. We lied. Behind her, the command bridge of her flagship was alive with activity. Officers worked at their stations. Soldiers stood ready. This was not a beaten species sending a desperate cry. This was a military force about to strike. For 10 years, we built, we planned, we prepared. We studied your technology and made it better. We trained our soldiers and made them stronger. We waited for this moment. When you were comfortable. When you believed you had won. When you thought we were nothing but obedient slaves. Her voice grew harder. You struck Earth first. That was your choice. You started this war without even knowing it was a war. And now, we are coming for you. That is our choice. She leaned forward, and her eyes seemed to look directly at Admiral Vorek. I want you to send a message to your emperor. Tell him that humanity remembers. We remember every city that burned, every family that died, every child that never got to grow up. We remember, and we repay our debts with interest. Her final words were spoken slowly. each one a hammer blow. Tell your emperor to be afraid. Because we are coming. And we do not forgive. And we do not forget. And we do not stop. The transmission ended. For a long moment, the Kithari command center was silent. Then Vorik shouted orders. All ships, battle formation, weapons ready. We will crush these insects before. He never finished the sentence. The human fleet attacked. Captain Lee Hana led the first wave. Her ship, the Retribution, screamed through space at speeds the Kithari had never seen from a human vessel. Behind her flew 200 fighters, pilots trained in the art of impossible flying. All wings, Hana called out, her voice bright with joy despite the danger. Remember what they took from us. Remember who we are fighting for. And show them what humans can do when we are angry. The battle began. Kithari ships opened fire with weapons that had conquered 300 worlds. Their plasma cannons and gravity beams had destroyed fleets many times larger than this human force. But the human ships did not die like they were supposed to. Dr. Choi Minho's adaptive shields activated. They analyzed the incoming fire, learned its patterns, and adjusted in real time. Attacks that should have been deadly splashed harmlessly against barriers that grew stronger with every hit. Then the human weapons spoke. Smart missiles launched in swarms. Each one carried a simple computer mind that could think and learn. They dodged Kithari defenses. They found weak points in enemy armor. They worked together like wolves hunting prey. Kithari ships began to explode. Admiral Kang Tae-ho commanded the main fleet from the heavy cruiser Soul's Memory. His orders were calm and precise. He saw the battle not as chaos but as a puzzle to be solved. 7th Squadron, flank left, draw fire from the enemy dreadnought. 2nd Squadron, prepare for close assault. 3rd Squadron, hold position until my signal. His tactics made no sense to the Kithari. They attacked from angles that no military doctrine recommended. They retreated when they were winning and charged when they were losing. They fought like madmen, but there was method in the madness. Tae-ho had studied Kithari battle records for years. He knew they followed strict rules. He knew they could not adapt to the unexpected, so he gave them nothing but the unexpected. On the ground below, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. For 10 years, they had waited. Now they struck at Kithari bases, with weapons smuggled in under the enemy's nose. Within hours, the alien presence on Earth was crumbling. Admiral Vorik watched his fleet die around him. This was not possible. These were humans. Primitives. Conquered property. They could not be doing this, but they were. 6 hours after the battle began, it ended. The Kithari garrison fleet was destroyed. Hundreds of alien ships floated dead in orbit. Thousands of Kithari soldiers were dead or captured. The occupation of Earth was over. Vorik survived. His escape pod was picked up by a human destroyer and brought to the Soul's Vengeance. He was escorted to a room where General Park Yuna waited. She sat behind a simple desk, looking at reports. When Vorik was brought in, she looked up. Her eyes were the same ones he had seen in the transmission. Cold. Patient. Dangerous. Admiral Vorik, she said. Thank you for joining me. Vorik straightened his back. If you are going to execute me, get it over with. Yuna shook her head. I am not going to execute you. I am going to release you. Vorik blinked. What? You heard me. I will give you a ship. Enough fuel to reach Kithari space, and you will carry a message to your emperor. She stood and walked toward him. Even though she was smaller than him, Vorik found himself stepping back. Tell the emperor what you saw today. Tell him that the species he dismissed as primitive just destroyed his garrison in 6 hours. Tell him that we have ships. We have weapons. We have soldiers who would rather die than kneel. And tell him that we are coming for him next. She stopped, face to face with him. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. Every world you conquered will hear of this day. Every slave you made will see what is possible. And every Kithari will learn to fear the name of Earth. She turned her back on him. Now go. Deliver my message, and pray that your emperor is smart enough to surrender. Because if he is not, we will not stop until we reach his throne room, and I will be the one standing over his body. Vorik was escorted away. An hour later, His escape pod launched toward Kethari space. He carried a message that would change the galaxy forever. Behind him, humanity celebrated its first victory. But General Park Yuna did not celebrate. She stood at a window, looking at the stars. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "The real war starts now." And she was right. The human fleet left Earth and did not look back. General Park Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship as the blue planet grew smaller behind them. For 10 years, she had dreamed of this moment. Now it was real. Now the war would be carried to the enemy's door. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving Earth's solar system behind. Their destination was the heart of the Kethari Empire. But the road would be long, and many would not survive to see its end. Admiral Kang Taeho had studied every map of Kethari space that human spies had stolen over the years. The empire stretched across thousands of systems, 300 conquered worlds, billions of enslaved beings, a military that had never known true defeat. "We cannot fight them directly," Taeho explained to the War Council. "Not yet. We do not have the numbers. But we do not need to fight alone." He pulled up a display showing the conquered species of the Kethari Empire. The Morvani, a race of tall beings with silver skin who had once been great builders. The Telith, small and quick, known for their brilliant minds. The sundered clans of Raketh, warriors who had fought the Kethari for a century before falling. "Every one of these species was conquered by force," Taeho said. "Every one of them hates their masters. Every one of them has been waiting for a chance to rise." Yuna nodded. "Then we give them that chance." The human fleet did not attack Kethari worlds at first. Instead, they visited the conquered ones. They broadcast the recording of the battle for Earth. They showed the enslaved peoples what was possible, and then they said the words that changed everything. "We do not come to conquer. We come to free. Join us, and together we will break the chains that bind us all." The Morvani were first. Their world, Morvan Prime, had been under Kethari rule for 600 years. Generations had been born and died in slavery, but they had not forgotten what freedom meant. When the human fleet arrived, Morvani resistance fighters emerged from hiding. They had weapons that were old and broken, clothes that were ragged and worn, but their eyes burned with the same fire that Yuna knew so well. The uprising lasted 3 days. Human soldiers fought alongside Morvani rebels. Together, they drove the Kethari garrison off the planet. When it was over, an old Morvani leader knelt before Yuna. "You have given us back our world," he said. "We are in your debt." Yuna reached down and lifted him to his feet. "There is no debt between the free. Stand with us, fight with us, and we are equals." The Morvani joined the fleet. Their workers repaired damaged ships. Their engineers shared knowledge that helped Dr. Choi Minho improve human weapons even further. The fleet grew stronger. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. The Teleth joined after human hackers helped them destroy the control systems that had kept their people in chains for 300 years. They brought their brilliant minds to the war effort, finding weaknesses in Kethari defenses that no one else could see. The sundered clans of Raketh joined after Captain Lee Hana led a daring rescue mission to free their captured chiefs. The Raketh were fierce warriors who had never stopped fighting, even after their official defeat. Now they had ships to match their courage. One by one, the conquered species rose. The rebellion spread like fire through dry grass. Systems that had been quiet for centuries exploded into chaos. The Kethari Empire, which had seemed so strong, began to crack. Emperor Vorith watched from his throne world as his empire burned. He could not understand what was happening. These were beaten species, broken species. They were supposed to obey. "Destroy them all," he ordered. "Send every ship we have. Crush this rebellion before it spreads further." But it was already too late. The war was brutal. Both sides suffered terrible losses. Admiral Taeho lost his left arm in the Battle of Verith Gate when his ship was hit by enemy fire. He refused to leave the command chair until the battle was won. The doctors gave him a mechanical replacement, and he was back in command within a week. Dr. Choi Minho worked without rest, always improving, always inventing. He created the weapon he called the Equalizer, a device that disrupted Kethari communication networks. When activated, it turned their organized fleets into confused mobs. "They rely on central command," Minho explained. Every ship waits for orders from above. Take away that command, and they do not know what to do. They were never taught to think for themselves. General Yuna led from the front. She walked through the corridors of captured stations. She spoke with freed slaves. She held the hands of dying soldiers and promised them that their sacrifice would not be forgotten. Every night, alone in her quarters, she looked at an old photograph. Her family, smiling, standing in front of their home in Seoul. A home that no longer existed. A family that was gone. "I am coming," she whispered to them. "Every step takes me closer to the ones who took you from me." The war was not only about battles. It was about hope. Every world that was freed sent the message further. The Cathari Empire is not unbeatable. The masters can bleed. Freedom is possible. Beings who had been slaves for generations picked up weapons for the first time. They did not always know how to fight. They died in large numbers, but they kept coming, because they had seen what humans had done, because they believed that tomorrow could be different from yesterday. In the third year of the war, the fleet reached Vareth Gate. It was a massive space station that guarded the entrance to Cathari core space. If it fell, the road to the Emperor's throne world would be open. The Battle of Vareth Gate lasted 7 days. Captain Lee Hanna flew mission after mission. Her ship was damaged so many times that the repair crews stopped counting. She slept in her cockpit between fights. She ate ration bars without tasting them. She fought like she was already dead and had nothing left to lose. On the 7th day, the Cathari brought their last reserve, a massive dreadnought, bigger than anything the Allied fleet had faced before. Its weapons carved through human and Allied ships like fire, through paper. Hanna's ship was hit. Her engines failed. Her weapons went silent. She was drifting, helpless, directly in the path of the dreadnought. She looked at the great ship coming toward her. She thought about Earth, about Seoul, about the people who had died in the first attack, about all the friends she had lost in the years since. "No," she said quietly. "You do not get to win." She used the last of her maneuvering power to turn her ship. Then she activated the emergency engine overdrive, the one that engineers warned would destroy the ship if used. She did not care. Her ship shot forward like a bullet. It struck the dreadnought directly in its main reactor. The explosion was visible from 1,000 kilometers away. The dreadnought died. And so did Captain Lee Hanna. But before her ship hit, she had managed one final transmission. Her voice was calm, happy, even, for Seoul, for Earth, for everyone we lost. "Finish this." The Allied fleet heard her words. They charged. They fought with fury that the Cathari could not match. By the end of the day, Vareth Gate had fallen. General Yuna stood in the wreckage of the command center. She had known Hanna since the beginning, had watched her grow from a reckless young pilot to a legend, had listened to her laugh 1,000 times. Now that laugh was gone forever. Yuna did not cry. She had run out of tears long ago, but she felt the loss like a knife in her heart. "We will finish it," she said quietly, looking out at the stars beyond. "I promise you, Hanna, we will finish it." The fleet regrouped. The road to the Cathari throne world was open. The final battle was coming. Admiral Tejo found Yuna still standing at the window hours later. "The fleet is ready," he said. "All allies have confirmed. We move on your order." Yuna turned. Her eyes were hard as iron. Her voice was steady as stone. "Then let us end this. One way or another. It ends at the Emperor's door." The fleet jumped into hyperspace. The final chapter of the war was about to begin. The Cathari throne world was called Cathar Prime. It was the most beautiful planet in the galaxy, covered in golden cities and crystal towers. For 5,000 years, no enemy had ever set foot on its surface. The emperors believed it was untouchable. They were wrong. The Allied fleet emerged from hyperspace to find the largest armada ever assembled waiting for them. Emperor Voreth had called every ship from every corner of his crumbling empire. 10,000 warships formed a wall of steel between the humans and their goal. General Park Yuna looked at the enemy fleet on her display screen. She had waited 15 years for this moment. 15 years of pain, sacrifice, and cold determination. Now it was here. "They have more ships than us," Admiral Kang Tejo observed. His mechanical arm clicked softly as he adjusted the display. They always did, Yuna replied. It never mattered before. It does not matter now. She opened a channel to the entire Allied fleet. Human ships, Morvani ships, Telith ships, Rakith ships, vessels from a dozen species who had risen against their masters. They all heard her voice. Friends, brothers and sisters, we have come a long way. We have lost much. We have buried our loved ones and watched our homes burn and shed tears that could fill oceans. Her voice softened, but we did not come here to lose. We came here to win. We came here to end this war forever. We came here to show the galaxy that no species has the right to enslave another. Today, the Cathari Empire dies. Today, freedom is born. She paused. For everyone we have lost. For everyone who will never see this day. Fight. Win. And let the stars remember what we did here. The fleet surged forward. The Battle of Cathar Prime was the largest space battle in the history of the galaxy. Thousands of ships clashed in the darkness above the golden world. Energy beams painted the black sky with light. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Admiral Tejo commanded from the heart of the fleet. His orders were calm and precise. Even as ships died around him, he had learned every lesson from every battle they had fought. He knew how to turn the enemy's strength against them. All Teleth squadrons, target their communication relays. Morvani heavy units, press the left flank. Human assault teams, prepare for boarding action. Dr. Choi Minho activated the equalizer. Across the Cathari fleet, communication networks collapsed. Ships that had been flying in perfect formation suddenly scattered. Captains who had never made a decision without orders from above froze in confusion. The Allied forces struck at the gaps. For 3 days and 3 nights, the battle raged. Neither side slept. Neither side rested. Ships ran out of ammunition and rammed their enemies. Crews fought hand to hand when their weapons failed. It was brutal and bloody and terrible. On the morning of the 4th day, General Yuna led a ground assault on the Imperial Palace. She had insisted on going herself. Her officers had protested. They said she was too valuable to risk. She had looked at them with those cold eyes and said only 3 words. I must go. The dropships landed in the palace gardens, where flowers had bloomed for 5,000 years. Now those gardens became a battlefield. Human soldiers and Rakith warriors fought through squads of Imperial guards. The Cathari fought hard to defend their emperor, but they were facing soldiers who had crossed a galaxy for this moment. Yuna moved through the battle like a ghost. Her weapon fired again and again. Guards fell before her. She had trained for this. She had prepared for this. Every step brought her closer to the one she had come to find. The doors of the throne room were carved from gold and set with gems that had been stolen from 100 worlds. Yuna blasted them open and walked inside. Emperor Vorath sat on his throne. He was old, older than any being Yuna had ever seen. His gray skin was wrinkled. His 4 eyes were dim, but he still wore the crown that marked him as ruler of the galaxy. Around him stood his personal guards, the best fighters in the Empire. They raised their weapons as Yuna entered. A battle followed. It was short and violent. When it ended, the guards were dead, and Yuna stood alone before the Emperor. Vorath looked at her with something that might have been curiosity. So, he said, you are the one. The human who burned my empire. The woman who turned slaves into soldiers. I have heard much about you. Yuna said nothing. She just watched him with those cold, patient eyes. Do you know how long my empire has stood? Vorath continued. 5,000 years. 300 worlds. Trillions of beings under my rule. And you, a creature from a primitive rock on the edge of the galaxy, you think you can end all of that? I do not think, Yuna said. I know. Vorath laughed. It was a dry, bitter sound. Even if you kill me, another will rise. The Empire is eternal. You cannot destroy an idea. You cannot kill a system. We will rebuild. We will return. And we will crush your kind into dust. Yuna walked toward him slowly. You are wrong, she said. Your empire survived because your slaves believed they could not win. Because they thought you were too strong to fight. Because they had forgotten what freedom felt like. She stopped in front of his throne. But they remember now. They have seen your fleets burn. They have watched your worlds fall. They have tasted freedom, and they will never accept chains again. Your empire is not eternal. It was always built on fear, and fear only works until someone decides they are not afraid anymore. She raised her weapon. I am not afraid of you. I never was. I was angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the universe. Voreth's eyes widened. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Wait, he said. We can negotiate. I can give you worlds, resources, whatever you want. Just, I do not want your worlds. Yuna interrupted. I do not want your resources. I want justice. And justice is not something you can buy. But she did not fire. Instead, she lowered her weapon. I am not going to kill you, she said. Death is too easy. Too quick. You deserve to live. To watch everything you built crumble. To see the species you enslaved walk free. To know that your name will be remembered only as a lesson in how tyrants fall. She turned to her soldiers. Take him. Broadcast his surrender to the galaxy. Let everyone see that the Empire is over. An hour later, Emperor Voreth stood in chains before a camera. His voice, once so powerful, shook as he read the words of surrender. The war was over. In the days that followed, the Allied forces freed the remaining Cathari-controlled worlds. The Empire dissolved like snow in sunlight. Species that had been enslaved for centuries walked free. A new galactic council formed, with representatives from every liberated world. Humanity was a founding member, not as conquerors, but as liberators. General Park Yuna did not stay for the celebrations. She returned to Earth. Seoul had been rebuilt in the years since the war began. New buildings stood where old ones had fallen. Parks and gardens grew where there had been ash. Children played in streets that had once been rivers of fire. Yuna walked through the city alone. She found the place where her family's home had stood. There was a memorial there now, a simple stone with the names of everyone who had died in the first attack. She knelt and touched the names of her parents, her brother, her grandparents, all the people she had loved and lost. We did it, she whispered. We made them pay. We set the galaxy free. I hope, wherever you are, you can see what we accomplished. She stayed there for a long time, just breathing, just being. Admiral Tejo found her as the sun was setting. The council is asking for you, he said gently. They want to make you the first president of the Galactic Alliance. Yuna shook her head. I am tired. Tejo. I have been fighting for 15 years. I do not want to fight anymore. Then do not fight, he said. Lead. Build. Help create the future we sacrificed so much for. She looked at him. He had changed so much since they were children playing in these same streets. They both had. Maybe, she said. But first, I need to rest. I need to remember what peace feels like. He nodded and offered his hand. She took it, and they walked together through the rebuilt city as the stars came out above. Years later, the former Cathari commander, Saran, now an ambassador, visited Earth. He found Yuna in a garden, watching children play. I have always wondered, he said. How did you do it? How did humans, who had nothing, defeat an empire that had everything? Yuna smiled. It was a real smile, warm and soft. Nothing like the cold expression she had worn during the war. Your empire made a mistake, she said. When you attacked Earth, you saw resources, land, a planet to add to your collection. You calculated the minerals, the water, the strategic value. She looked at the children running and laughing. But you never calculated what lived on that planet. You never considered our anger, our love, our stubbornness. You cannot conquer a species that would rather burn than kneel. You cannot defeat people who fight not for power but for each other. Saran nodded slowly. I will make sure the galaxy never forgets. Good, Yuna said. Neither will we. She watched him leave, then turned back to the children. Somewhere in the sky, the stars shone bright, full of worlds that were now free. Worlds that remembered a woman general who had looked at an empire and refused to be afraid. The war was over, but the story of humanity had only just begun.